And we'll start. We should stand for the pledge, I think. Okay. So I guess we'll start with that. I pledge allegiance to the
To the
flag
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Indivisible.
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So Louisa is not here tonight, so I do need a secretary. Is there anybody that can be a secretary for me? Michelle, or Teresa? I mean,
Okay.
Ralph, I won't ask you.
The only thing is, I'm hearing a piano and I can't hear it too good.
Sorry. That's okay.
Thank you.
Why wouldn't you ask me, Lauren?
I mean, can you do that and drive?
Okay, so good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining this afternoon. It's certainly a nice day, so we will get the show on the road here, so maybe you can get an hour of sunset somewhere as it's going down. So, okay, so I did send out the slide deck. You can find that slide deck in your Google Drive. So Ralph, I did not share it with you, but I will do that as soon as we have a break. I'll make sure that you're shared on that. So just you're welcome. And so just the summary items for today that were sent out through the agenda was just a brief update on the state literacy progress, just to give you an idea of where the state is at with that. We're going to have, we have some great guests tonight. We have Christy Carboni, Mary Jo Borman, who are two of our math coaches, two amazing coaches and employees for us in the district that have just done amazing work with our students at the K-5 level in math. They're also super essential during COVID and kept the math lessons flowing at a very critical time. So they were instrumental. So we get to meet them tonight. Laura Mead, who's our math supervisor, will also be presenting with them, along with Melissa Nadeau a little bit later on. So we will have a math celebration and highlight segment. Kelly will talk about the updated, the state mandated IEP training and counseling curriculum. And then I'd like to share with you, just to give you an idea, some of the drafting work that's happening in the background with the program of study development with the academies, to give you a little snapshot of the types of things that we're working on. And Melissa Nadeau will take you into the medical technology pathway, to use that as a great example of, to give you a sense of the work that we're engaged in. Without further ado, so right now, if you've been following, and if not, that's okay. It is not a super exciting journey just yet. The state has been a little bit slow with updating on the literacy committee progress. But what they have done starting May 4th is that they've opened up a solicitation window for schools to submit programs for consideration. So in addition to some of the programs that they are researching, districts have an opportunity to put their program of choice on the list. And so Danbury has begun the application process for the Being a Reader, which is the program that we currently have, although we are advocating for the Being a Reader 2.0 version. So there's a new version that's coming out that would be a simple upgrade without having to buy all new materials, simply a couple of components and add-ons that we would want to see that were more in line and in line with some of the components that the state is looking at. And I did, this is a live link, and you can get this in your PowerPoint presentation. I'll just pull this up very quickly. This is an evidence-based rubric that the state is using as part of the review process. So for districts who want to submit something, they have to write descriptors. So there's criterion, there's indicators, and the descriptions of the evidence. And so in order to submit an application package, you have to take your current program and you have to run a one-to-one on all of these, the criteria, the indicators, and the descriptions. And so I think right now we have Pam Dalton, and I've been working on this. Pam is heavily involved, and she's the main driver at this point, but she is, I think, on 25 pages of evidence. that have to be written and explicated and show the direct nexus and alignment to the evidence in the rubric. And so it is quite involved in terms of the process. And there are a couple other districts in the state that are using this. She's actually going to go out tomorrow to meet with one of the schools just to see where they are in their process, and to make sure that we're having some discussions about the application and about kind of next steps. So just in terms of collaboration with another school district who are using it. So you can see that the rubric is quite involved. We are working on that. We are submitting application for our current program, Being the Reader 2.0 version. So that's really the update. We have some, time to go before they close that window, May 25th. And then at that point, they'll start reviewing. Again, we don't really expect to hear anything about the list that's posted until the summer, a little bit later. So as soon as we get that list, I'll be happy to circle back, committee meeting or no meeting, and provide an update to this group so that they're informed of what is taking place and what the next steps are for our groups. Okay, are there any questions on that? No? Okay, Michelle?
I was just wondering, what is the school that we're comparing it to? Is it similar in size or
No, it's not
ranking?
necessarily. Yeah, it's really more about, so there's a school in Bridgeport. I think it's called New Beginnings. And this is a small company. So the Collaborative Classroom and the Being a Read program, it's not one of those massive companies. So it's not like there's not a ton of schools, big schools that have adopted it per se yet, because they're a small company. And so where we have found schools that are using it, it's always important to reach out and collaborate and talk about best practice and how are you leveraging the program, what the results you're seeing, are you happy with it? And then to also talk to them about their process in this journey as well, just to reach out in partnership. So we know very little about how they're using it, what they're doing, but it's always good to connect on those things, especially when we're really only a year and a half into this program. So it's really more for informational purposes and to learn at that point.
Right. Pitfalls and stuff. This is one of the 5 programs that you had mentioned. There were 2, and then there was the one that we were using, right? That you're saying is now.
Yeah. So this is the one. Yep. This is the one that we are using. And then there were two additions, Core Knowledge and Art Core. And those are the 2 kind of big premier programs that we were, these are going to be on the list. Like there's no way that they're not. And so we started to look at those. But it changed the game a little bit when they called for an open solicitation of programs. So it allowed for an opportunity to say, well, this is why we think Being a Reader is a pretty good program that you can consider. And so we'll take that under advisement. There may or may not be other districts that are using it, widely. And that could help or hinder, but it really depends on that evidence-based criteria, is whether or not they will say, okay, it appears that there's enough evidence to meet the needs of providing a high quality foundation for students. And so we just won't know what that will be until they drop the list to the public.
Okay.
Yes,
Great.
Teresa.
Thank you.
So the state is going to mandate across the board a program for all elementary literacy programs, correct?
So they'll post a list of 5 foundational programs that you can use.
So you can
approved.
choose out of the 5.
Yes. And they may provide an alternative route. And then perhaps another app. We had heard that there would be a waiver process. We don't know if this solicitation of programs for consideration is part of that waiver process. We don't know what that would look like. So you can, I would imagine that if a school district, I'm making this up, I would imagine if a school district is achieving at super high levels of reading literacy and they're using a particular program, but it's not on the list, but they can demonstrate that it's working in some way, perhaps a waiver might be, there could be a waiver that would go along with that. So we don't know what that looks like. It's a little bit tricky to speculate. So I want to be careful that we're, I don't want to put false information out there, but I could only assume that, there will be a potential waiver process. But, if the state is suggesting a particular program, we should heed heed that information. Okay. So if I get more information, I'll certainly update the group. We don't have to wait for a meeting to get that information. Okay. Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So now I would like to just again introduce you to Chrissy, Mary Jo Borman, and Laura Mead. I'm not sure if Chrissy's on tonight. I know she wasn't feeling well, but if she's not with us, we wish her well. She certainly has been putting in a lot of hard work amongst the other K-5 literacy coaches as well. But I do want to allow Laura Mead and her team to talk a little bit about some of the great things that are happening in math. There's been a tremendous amount of work to build teachers' understanding of mathematical practices and to get students to also to be thinking like mathematicians and be thinking mathematically. So I will let Laura take it away to talk a little bit about the work that's going on there with our students.
No idea. Okay, I'm not sure why it's not letting me share. Okay. You can unmute us. We're muted?
We are muted.
Hi. We are not yet. So Mary Jo and I are actually in the same room together. Mary Jo has been helping me. I am Dr. Laura Mead. I am the K-5 STEM supervisor, and I have been in district for approximately 28 years, if you include my subbing, plus 30. And I have
What happened?
You're now, Laura, you went on mute.
Okay, so Mary Jo's computer just quit Zoom. So I'm going to continue on. Good thing we have both computers going. I will continue on here. And with me tonight is Mary Jo Borman. What? You ready? There we go. Mary Jo Borman. And yeah, if you can. Mary Jo's going to try and share her screen because she has the presentation that we have. If not, Kara, I'll have you do it. You got it? Great.
I lost something.
Yeah, we're changing screens.
Okay.
So Mary Jo is just sharing her
Okay.
screen now. And also with me is, so Mary Jo and I are going to do the presentation together. This is, as Kara said, the tools in our schools was very much Chrissy Carboni's little child there. So I'm going to let Chrissy just introduce herself. She has not been feeling well, but I'm going to let her introduce herself, and then Mary Jo and I will take the screen.
Hey, everyone. I appreciate you saying I'm not feeling well, but when it comes down to it, I was inflicted with COVID this weekend. It was a wonderful Mother's Day. So I am feeling a little better, though, I'm happy to say. So we did a PD, and I'm sure Laura might be giving you some background on that. And after the PD, we said we always like to do a follow-up because teachers don't like when PD is just an isolated event. They like it to be tied to something. So after our PD, which was greatly based on manipulatives, we asked teachers to send us videos and pictures of their kids using all kinds of tools in their classrooms, in their math classes. And what we got was some really great material. And we decided to put it together in a slideshow. And that's what we would like to share with you tonight. I have been teaching in the Danbury Public Schools for 32 years. I just said 320 to Laura because I was joking, but I can't believe it's 32 years. It blows me away. I'm so impressed with what is going on with mathematics in this decade. Our kids are amazing. Every day a teacher sends me something new, a new video or a new picture or a new strategy that kids have used that they are amazed with, and I continue to be amazed with. I'm so impressed with the pedagogy that's going on with our teachers and the thinking that's going on with our students. And we're hoping that our little presentation today will give you a little glimpse into what's going on.
Thank you so much, Chrissy. So you'll see me light up on Mary Jo's because we are together. So I just want to give you just a little bit of a backdrop as to, and Chrissy did a really nice job of front loading that. Instructional coaching is what we're striving for. And instructional coaching is an innovative professional development strategy that facilitates change, improves instruction, and transforms school culture. We just wanted you to know that coaches and teachers work together as partners, and they work together for the betterment of our students. And right there on the slide, you can see a quote from Jim Knight. We were fortunate enough as a coaching group to work with Jim Knight last week in a coaching workshop. So just so you know, some of the types of coaching that we offer at the K-5 level are, there's an in-person support piece where it's very job embedded. The coaches are in with the teachers, in with the students. They plan, co-teach, debrief on lessons taught, and explore instructional routines. And an important piece that has really come alive in the past couple of years are the math language routines, which really support our multilingual language learners, but also all students. And then on the other side, you see district needs and support. And as you can see, over the past 3 years, we've had 60 plus new teachers come in. In the past 2 years, some of those teachers, this was the actual first year that they were in the classroom. So we really had to design our support toward a group of new teachers who hadn't been in the classroom face-to-face with kids, and also kids who hadn't been in the in face-to-face and actually touching materials and paper and pencil and all of that. And PD then guidance that we support in all schools. We have monthly principal meetings. That's all our coaches with the principals. We push out at the K2 level right now, content video guidance, which you'll hear some of our teachers talk about, and specific professional development sessions throughout the year. So how did we prep for the unique needs due to the pandemic? Well, those guidance videos were part of it. So they are always on hand for our teachers, and the timely PD. We definitely had issues with using materials. Kids weren't accustomed to it. They weren't accustomed to sharing because we had a stint where kids couldn't share materials. Then we moved in transition, they could share materials. So it's been a very roller coaster of a past couple of years, and our coaches have just done a phenomenal job of helping the teachers feel comfortable. We've definitely needed to address the academic language gaps and support those 60 plus novice teachers and meet the needs of our 5,000 plus elementary students. So now is the part of the presentation where we really turn it over to our teachers and our students. And we're going to take you from listening to teachers, both novice and veteran teachers, a couple of principals who have actually chimed in to let us know, and then really show you where the rubber meets the road with our students.
Hi, my name is Sarah Cephaloni. I am a first grade teacher over at Pembroke School. I wanted to talk a little bit about the math department and what they have been doing for us. The guidance videos and materials that are provided by the math department, specifically Mary Jo for first grade, are extremely beneficial. They help give an understanding of the standards that we're teaching, and they guide us for each unit and lesson. Coming out of a pandemic has been challenging, and the video and materials provide ample activities and differentiation to meet the needs of all of our students as individuals. I'm extremely appreciative of the guidance videos and the support that we receive from our incredible math department. Thank you.
Each week. I've been co-teaching with Mary Jo for the last couple of years, and it's really strengthened my teaching in math and helped my students. We look at the students' needs and adapt the lessons and coach them in what they need. I've really seen some great growth in my students and in my teaching as well. I've learned ways to question my students and see what they know, and found ways to just improve that math language with my students, and I've seen tremendous growth. I'm very thankful for Mary Jo and the entire math team for what they provide for the Danbury Public Schools.
Hi.
The videos that Mary Jo Berman did were extremely beneficial in helping all of us plan the lessons for each day by watching her and her modeling. It was instrumental in making the math program successful this year.
It was also a helpful way to share some information with the student teachers that we each had too, so that helped them as well. It started out with also Mary Jo did some adjusting some of the worksheets or the Blackline Masters, and that was very helpful, and also slideshows to help streamline them, because some of them were sometimes a little bit more challenging, and she was able to pinpoint things that she thought were challenging, which was very helpful.
She also told us like what objectives we really should be looking for throughout the lesson, and when the lesson was done, what we want to see our kids accomplish, and what objectives we want to see met, and if not, how to adjust and what we might need to do. She also told us with the planning, like some of the lessons should be more than one day, which was very helpful because sometimes as a teacher, even a veteran teacher, you're trying to get that whole lesson done and you feel that time-wise you don't. And sometimes you're not meeting the objective and then you're worried they didn't meet the objective. Do I keep going? What do I do? And she was very helpful with that too. Awesome.
Also having Mrs. Carboni come in and model lessons for myself as well as the student teacher. She came in a couple times this year and really helped me and the student teacher see how the program should work.
So the next teacher you're going to see, as Mary Jo goes through here, the first year teacher, this is Julia Coelho. And just to let you know, Julia is a product of Danbury Public Schools. She has gone K through 12 in Danbury Public Schools and through WestCon's program and transitioned beautifully into Mill Ridge Primary School.
One of the biggest supports that I have been given as a new teacher is definitely the one-on-one support from my math coach, Chrissy Carboni. She is very hands-on, not just with the program, but also coming in and working with me and my students. At the beginning of the year, she spent so much time helping me prepare the math manipulatives for my classroom and helping me explicitly teach how to use those tools, how to teach my students how to use those tools. And that has led my students to be so successful throughout the year because they're really able to use the tools to be able to show their work and they understand how they're getting the answer. They're not focused on what the right answer is. They're focused on how can they show their work and use the most efficient strategy to get to that answer. And I also really appreciate how hands-on and direct she is with her math videos, deep diving into each unit, each lesson within those sections. And that alone has made the first year for me so much better because I'm not just doing it by myself. I'm doing it with her help with the videos. She explains within those lessons what are important points to point out to students, how we should be giving them access to tools and how we can develop their strategies such as number lines, math manipulatives, the tools, equations. And without that guidance, I don't think I would have been as successful as I was this year.
Good evening. My name is Miss LaHood, and I am a kindergarten teacher at the Danbury Primary School. We have been so fortunate to have Mrs. Toscano in our building, and especially myself in my classroom. She's helped me to really see the value of our math program with her assistance and coaching. The rigorous practice of composing and decomposing numbers has been very valuable. The students have been able to make a connection between math and literacy, where when we try to stretch out words, we use segmenting, which would be decomposing, or we use blending, which would be composing. And it's been really cool to see the connection that the students are making.
I have found that the videos provided by the math department at the primary level has been excellent in not only educating me on the look-fors and things that are needed in the classroom, but also to support the teachers as they navigate through the curriculum and instruction for the students. I have found that
So the other thing that I wanted to talk about was the monthly meeting that I've been having with my coaches every month. So each month I have my math, my literacy, and my SIOP coaches come together with me, and we sit down and have a monthly meeting where we talk about, what I'm seeing in the building, what we have coming up curriculum-wise that we might need some support with. We talk sometimes about the data of recent assessments. And we talk about what challenges we're having, questions that teachers have come with that they need support with, teachers who have reached out and said that they're struggling with certain things. It's an opportunity to bring us all together. I think this is super helpful because it gives me someone to talk to and then run ideas by,
Sorry. Yep. So here is the part where Chrissy talked about, we put together tools in our schools, and this is a collection. This collection is the result of our recent PD session, focusing on the research about the impact of manipulatives in math education. So in kindergarten, This video will start. You'll hear the kids.
6, 7, 8.
So this was an activity where they had to use the materials. Then you see the work map that actually Melissa Toscano did design that was a little bit different from what the program gave. The children then colored in, and then they used so they went from concrete to pictorial and wrote the number in the abstract. This is,
Here. Oh,
that's
ahead.
okay. This is a video of a kindergarten class actually having choice time in what they want to do experience in centers. This is a huge piece of developing an independence in students, and this teacher just does it so well.
That was it for the purple table. Billy, are you up for the purple table? Yes. You gotta go choose. Then we have our red rabbit table.
So the red rabbits get to choose.
Once all the chairs are filled up, the center is closed. Yellow giraffe table. Which one do you want to do? Let's go choose. That was it for the purple table.
So this is the same teacher's classroom where you see the kids actually engaging in the mathematics after they have had the opportunity to select their own. And in kindergarten, in case you can't imagine, this is no easy task. So we really, really admire Jackie and what she's done with these kids. So the next few in kindergarten are just some slides. This is Mrs. Capone's class up at KSP. I was actually there with her, and you can see the manipulatives and the students writing on the board. They are learning the difference between an expression and an equation, big time in math. Also here is Mrs. Robertson. She has accessible manipulatives and materials for the students no matter what they're doing. And here is Mrs. Gartland's kindergarten class. And again, you can see that concrete, the manipulatives to the pictorial, the students have drawn it, and then they show it, they write it, that's the abstract.
So now we're going to head into grade 1. This video is great because it's going to show our multi-language learners and how with the manipulatives, they can access the content and they can begin to learn the English. And this one really fascinates me.
What do you think about continuing this to evaluate your whole number? Would you be able to explain to him why this is easy? Go for it. You can do it in Spanish. Go ahead.
Porque,
How do I, okay.
porque esto es 10, ya sabemos que es 10 y 5 más 5 es 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Ya sabemos que, no, ya sabemos que es 10 más 10 y es 20.
So one thing you'll notice is that our students are always working together. They're always collaborating and playing games. And that may have looked like, no, I'm going to push my hand away, but there was a lot of learning there. I'm going to try to get us to the next slide. And here's another counting collection with students grouping manipulatives to show 10ness. Before we get them into that tower of 10, we do a lot to establish 10ness.
Okay, so here's your arrangement.
Yeah, so
believe in your partner.
all of us did 10s.
Yeah.
Then we counted
How many do you have?
60.
And is it easy to count it this way? Could you model for me how to count these piles to show me the total?
Like 10. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60.
Oh, all right. Now I need you to draw this arrangement. Okay, so
one of the things that's very important are the games that students play in math, and that the game is focused around the math. So here we have some grade 1 students, and they're explaining the rules of the game and how the tools are helping them depict the math that is involved.
First, you pick 2 cards.
Oh.
Here, Leo. So first you pick 2 cards. If you need help, you get the amount of cubes. If you want to do adding or subtracting, and if you need help adding or subtracting.
These are 2 big numbers. What are you going to do with them?
So if you want to subtract, so let's make
Okay.
lion. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay. You're finding the difference between these 2 cards and you made 90. So what are you going to do?
So if we want to subtract, we take away 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And what do you have left?
4.
For what?
2, 3, 4, 5.
What?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, we
Wait,
have 50.
Did you have too much?
So yeah.
Okay.
So we take 5 away. We have 4.
For what though?
4, 10.
And what is that total? Can you show me how you count these 10s?
10, 20, 30, 40.
Okay, and what do you do on your sheet then?
Then if it's checked out, you don't do it. So the next person does
it wasn't already checked off on your sheet?
Yep.
Yep. You explained that perfectly.
And here students are once again working and they're making corrections as they go. Constantly talking about the parts of numbers that have come alive through working with our tools.
Let's see the board. Explain what you're going to pick. Put your head much more back.
No, it's 7.
Can you put both? Can you put it both spots? You sure?
Yes, you can.
Let's see Caleb go. Gotta watch Caleb.
Okay, go. 17 or 71? I'm going 71. So I'm putting 71 over here.
Why'd you put it there?
Because Siliculus get 90. She get 99. He will lose. I think I'm stuck. I don't know. 9 or 95. Oh, I think it's 5. You want to have to be in the graders. Wait, these 2 have to be in the graders. So 59. Oh, no. 79. Okay.
Talk to him. Tell him, is that right?
No, it's not right. It's not right.
Talk to him.
It's not right.
Nicholas.
It's not right.
Tell him why.
Because you picked 59 and 71 has more 10s than 59.
That's what he said.
I think it's gonna be a draw. It's gonna be hard. Yeah.
Wait, he's got, can he go? Wait, can he go? Can you go? Nicholas, can you go? Can you put your number someplace?
95.
Is that okay? Is that one okay, Caleb?
And now we see just some artifacts, some depictions of how students have arranged their tools and the structures that they use. They have the tools in their hands and they can do some very sophisticated things if you take a look at the equations and how they match the equations to the numbers. And now we're just going to take a quick look into grade 2.
Go ahead. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50.
So we want to be very thank you, cognizant of your time. And we had a couple more videos in second grade, but you will have the entire complement of these videos. And we just wanted to let you know that, this has been a tremendous amount of work that the teachers have welcomed us into their classroom. The transitions that they've made, kindergarten teachers have made probably the most amount of transitions in the past 2 years, but KN1 as well. And they really have been partners in education with us. And we are so fortunate to have the teachers that we have to work with us each and every day. And I am so fortunate to have the 6 coaches that I have work with me. So again, the first link on the slide where it does have the math celebrations, you will have all of the videos and all of the pictures that we collected from teachers. And we just want to thank you so much for letting us present tonight.
Thank you so much, Mary Jo, Laura, and Chrissy. It was brought a smile to my face, certainly, to see the children and working on the math and the back and forth of explaining and correcting and providing feedback. It's always wonderful to see the kids doing that. The next topic that I'm going to walk the board through is the overview of the training that's going to be rolled out across the special education and related services department. Kara, while I'm talking through it, would you be able to put back up the slides for me, please?
Working on it.
No worries, take your time. So I'm just going to provide you a little bit of background. Starting July 1st, 2022, so just 2 months from now, the state is requiring all districts to shift to two things: a new IEP, as well as a new platform, and an online platform in which we enter the information into the IEP. And the reason for it is for a few different things. One of the rationales for it is the state has done a multi-year process in which they've looked at the individualized educational plans, which are the written formats that we provide services for special education students. And they've realized that they can be quite cumbersome, difficult to understand. And so they've tried to streamline the process to make it more user-friendly, both for districts as well as for families. The next reason is that they've tried to beef up the quality of the IEP. And you'll notice in the new IEP, and I'll show it to you in a moment, that they've really put an emphasis on parent input in a more strategic and systematic way throughout the plan, really engaging families and parents as partnering with districts on providing specialized instruction and related services for their students. So they want to make sure that parents and students, as the students become older, have a greater emphasis and input into the process. Another reason is really to help to align with standards. So you've heard Kara talk a lot about across the academics, the academic standards in ELA as well as mathematics. And what they're requiring for any special education student is that we consider the grade level standard in which that student is in, and then break that standard down to see where the student is currently performing and how we can get them to make progress towards that grade level standard. The next piece is really to look at making sure that our data reporting systems are in alignment with the state. Right now in my department, there are 4 major data reporting systems that we do for special education students. There's a lot of legality, laws, and compliance that come with IEPs. And so we're required to inform the state of which students are on IEPs, the different types of services that they receive, when a student is being evaluated, there's a timeline for that. And so all of those systems come with a high level of state reporting. And this new system will streamline that process between districts and the state. Another benefit will be we frequently see students moving from district to district. So for example, a student moves from Bethel to Danbury or maybe Manchester to Danbury. It's really going to be under this new system, a click of a button to make all those special education records available and accessible to districts, which is advantageous so that we can immediately be aware of the student's needs and start to implement a plan ASAP. And the last kind of benefit of this new transition is it has a higher level of integration with our current system. So right now we're using PowerSchool as our student information system. Parents have a portal that they can log into PowerSchool. This new special education portal will provide parents that similar login experience that they can log in and view their students' records across time. And it will also sync nightly with PowerSchool. So right now, if a parent moves and an address gets changed in our current system, it has to be updated in PowerSchool. It then has to be updated in the special education system. And there's a lot of duplication of efforts on behalf of district staff, and this will serve to streamline that process. So with this comes a big undertaking of the special education and related services department as far as training. So I'm going to walk you through what we've been doing so far this year and then what our plans are for the next 2 years. So this year, the special education administrative team, as well as our PPT facilitators, which are individuals that run and chair all of our planning and placement team meetings, and those are our special education meetings for students, have received training in the new system. So that remember, there's two parts. One is the new IEP, which is changing the way in which we write the document. And then the second is the actual system where we enter in the information. And so that team will then continue to receive increased training over the summer. And upon the start of the school year for next year, every one of your special education teachers and related services staff members will receive the 3 days in which they come back to school at the beginning of the year will be all dedicated to this new IEP and this new online training system. Across the year, they've been getting some information that is, it's come out from the state to prepare them for this transition, but the full training will not be available to them until they return for next school year. Then across the year, we'll utilize some of our PD time, so those early release half days or the after school professional development time, to pick apart the sections of the IEP to really talk about how to write them in a high quality fashion. So for example, one of those areas is writing IEP goals and objectives. And what that is they're specific, they're measurable for each individual student. And so we'll talk about how do we select those goals and objectives based on data of where a student currently is, understanding of the grade level standard where we'd like students to be, and then helping teachers to systematically and strategically measure progress across time so we understand which students are making progress towards their individual plans. So this is going to be a big undertaking of the department. As I had said, it will launch July 1st, which is summer. It'll give my department, my office over the summertime an opportunity to transition in all the data from our current vendor into the new system and make sure that we're ready to rock and roll start of the school year for next year. What I've done on this slide, just as a reference tool, is I've put a copy, the first bullet point for the new IEP template is a hyperlink. And if you click on that form, it'll bring you to the new IEP so that you can just get a feel for what it looks like. For those of you that have spent any time reviewing the current IEP, it does look and feel very differently. I want to stress that there's no different information included in the document. It's just the layout and the way in which it's organized feels different. So all the legally required components of the IEP are still there. It just is ordered a little bit differently. Some things are emphasized a little bit more so than others, but the components are still the same. So the second document that we have is a side-by-side comparison of the current IEP to the new IEP. And what it does is it walks you through page by page. And I'm going to leave these there for you to look at a later time, as I could do a 3-hour presentation just walking you through the two documents. But it takes the current document and the new document, and it walks you through to emphasize just what one looks like with the other one right next to it, and you'll be able to kind of take a crosswalk between the two to see some of those differences that I'm talking about. So the training that we spoke about is composed of a few things. It breaks the IEP down into 8 specific sections. And what it does is each training module is about 1.5 hours in length, and we'll walk the special education and related services staff members through a state-created presentation. They want to make sure that everyone across the state is getting the same information for the rollout of this new system. And we'll go through each component. There's some case studies. We'll utilize students and information in districts with individual teachers looking at their current student information so that they can digest and understand it at a deep level. There's also some asynchronous modules. For 4 of the modules, there's support or compendium documents in which teachers just go back for 1 second, which teachers can watch and look at, so to provide some just additional clarifying information. And then lastly, we'll do a half-day training on the system itself. So the online platform in which we'll enter all this information in. So one is understanding the new IEP and document, and the other one is the usability of the online platform. I think this is going to be a very exciting time for the department. I think a lot of the changes that the state has put forward for the new IEP are very student-centered, data-driven, and aligned with the state standards, which is exciting and awesome. That said, it's going to be a transition, right? Many people like myself, I was thinking about it the other day, I think I've been using the current document for almost 15 years with very small tweaks and changes, and now it looks and feels very differently. So we certainly are going to develop ongoing professional development throughout the year, as well as some voluntary support sessions that teachers can go to bring current questions that they have, get feedback on information that they're providing. I'm going to pause right there for a second. I know I shared a lot of information, and see if there's any questions so far from the board related to the new state training. I would encourage you, when you have a few minutes, to click on, so you get a feel for what the new IEP looks like. This is the document that our special education and related services staff members fill out for every single special ed student in our district. And we have just over 1,700 currently. And they're very specific and individualized to that child's disability and individualized needs. And I'll just give you kind of a taste of what one of them looks like. It is blank to protect student information. And at a later date, if you would like some samples of what one would look like for a potential hypothetical student, we certainly would be happy to provide those to you. Kara, if you could advance forward to the next slide. The other piece that we'll be doing for professional development in the school counseling department is we are going to be looking at our school counseling framework, and particularly our lessons that the school counselors are doing for our students. So the state recently issued a comprehensive school counseling framework from kindergarten through 12th grade. It's based on the ASCA model, which is the National School Counselor Association. And the themes you'll see here are very aligned with our Portrait of the Graduate themes. They're on developing leadership, equity, advocacy, collaboration, accountability, and systemic change amongst our students. So it's building lessons into our academics, into our school day, so that students can learn these skills. So what I really like about this is that we're seeing threads not only in the academic classes, but also through the support work of our school counselors and supporting the ultimate North Star Portrait of the Graduate work for our district. So we've started the work this year. In 2021-22, what we've started this in the second half of the year, is that we're providing training for our school counselors on the new framework that was released by the state. We want to make sure that they understand it, that they understand the expectations, and that they're then ready to revise our current district framework to be in alignment with that. We also, in doing so, we're looking at our vision and mission, not the district vision and mission, but the school counselor vision and mission, so that it could be in alignment with this new framework. We're having school counselors work together in teams across both the middle school and high school to work together in partnership to reimagine or re-envision what school counseling looks like in current day. Next year, we'll then go into rewriting our curriculum, our lesson plans. There's a much heavier emphasis on this new school counselor framework on Tier 1 instruction. And what that means is how to have school counselors push into general ed classrooms and teach all students, so that all students have access to the school counselor, not just through the college application process, but through skill building. And so what we will do through the lesson planning is pick across grades 6 through 12, what are the key or hallmark skills that we want each grade level to learn, and we'll calendarize those by month so that every single student in Danbury, regardless of what middle school you attend or eventually what high school you attend, will receive the same instruction at the tier 1 level. School counselors will always continue to work on the tier 2 and tier 3 levels, meaning students that need extra help, extra support, maybe pull out from a classroom to deal with a certain situation or scenario. But we want to put a heavier emphasis on pushing our counselors into classrooms to do this tier 1 level work. So next year will be all focused around writing those lesson plans and making sure that we have an aligned framework from grade 6 to 12 across the district. And then the following year, year 23-24, we'll be looking at implementing the lessons, the full comprehensive lesson plan. We'll do some implementation next year, getting feedback and making revisions and adjustments to that. The school counselor department, myself, along with Kara, will also align between the curriculum administrators and my team to make sure that we are also looking at what does this look like in each one of our career academies. So first is getting what do we want all of our students to know, and then how does that fit into the different academies, and where's the appropriate timing and place to do these push-in lessons to support all kids. So another exciting initiative across the school counselor department. I'll pause there if there's any questions.
Can I just, it's very interesting. I applaud all the focus, but what happened to academic excellence for our students? Promoting that with all this as a backup.
Sure. So the goal is always academic excellence for all of our students. And so in specifically speaking to the school counselor framework and curriculum, that is how to support with an additional layer so that all students can achieve academic excellence. That we're not taking away, this is not in place of that, it's in addition to. So making
Right, I understand, but I haven't seen academic excellence anywhere, mentioned.
Are you questioning in particularly related to the information that you've seen tonight? Is that what you're?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's amazing what you folks are doing. It's, but to me, the goal is, in your goal, but it's not stated, it's not articulated, academic excellence, towards academic excellence. And I don't see that.
Well, I apologize if that wasn't front and center. The goal of the district is always academic excellence for all students. My particular sections is looking at the students with disabilities, which we are legally mandated to write an individualized plan of how that student can achieve academic excellence, right? So that is really walking through that individual plans for a student that has different needs and how we can support them to ultimately achieve their best version of themselves. And for different students, their goals are going to be different in alignment with what is appropriate based on their disability. The school counselor information is how do we support students knowing that in addition to achieving, the best that they can in reading, writing, math, and other academic areas, how do we build them as people? We know students need to be able to possess leadership skills. They need to be able to advocate for themselves. They need to be able to collaborate with one another in order to achieve academic excellence, in order to be able to go on to post-secondary school or to be successful in the workforce. That those are also skills and qualities that are needed for all students to be successful. So the two components tonight were really focused on just giving you one component of a piece that makes us who we are as a district, ensuring up and building capacity of our program so that all students can achieve to the best of their ability.
I just don't see how the videos were very helpful. It was, but SAT scores, are they going to be judged on equity and leadership? That's what I'm getting at. I don't see this.
Teresa, if I could just jump in for a second, and I do understand your point and where you're going. So part of, we've done deep data dives on SAT scores, our ESPA scores, and when you start to break down the root cause of issues with student learning, you could trace it right back down to some of whether or not students are able to explain their thinking in a mathematics class, for example, to be able to build a strong mathematical understanding, to be able to mentally model what it is that they're doing, so that that transfers into their work. And so the work, for example, and that is all related to academic excellence. And so, you know, we just, the excellence piece doesn't start in 10th or 11th grade, you know, when they're taking that SAT. It starts well before that. And all of the coaching and the things that you heard tonight play an integral role in helping to strengthen the pedagogy that's needed to help shape that academic excellence. So how do we get best practice on the table? How do we make sure that students are engaging in discourse? How do we make sure that our teachers feel comfortable and feel efficacious in the way that they're delivering curriculum, and to be able to give good feedback so that we can continue to push students along a growth continuum to meet their needs? When it comes to things like equity and advocacy and collaboration, you know, when we talk about, I'll give you an example. There's a lot of research around advanced placement courses, Teresa, and I'm sure you can appreciate this, that says that just participation alone in an advanced placement course yields greater achievement for students than if they had not participated, regardless of how they score on the exam, for example. And so Danbury, whereas many high schools have criteria for students to take those courses, you have to have a certain GPA, you have to have a certain cut score. We're only going to offer 2 sections of these courses, and everybody else who doesn't meet this criteria, sorry, just the top 40 kids are going to get these sections. We've created a system in Danbury that allows any student who wants to take an advanced placement course and to challenge themselves in that course to have access to that course. And that is equity. That's an equity issue, because we know when students participate in an advanced placement course, whether or not they score a 2, a 3, a 4, or 5, that they are better prepared for college, and they do better on end of course assessments and end of high school assessments such as the SAT and ACT. And so those are good examples of how we've created systems within our school system to open the doors for students to take those courses. So, you know, I want to make sure that you know, there's a lot that goes into how a student achieves, or whether or not a student achieves. And certainly when we're tending to their social emotional needs, when we're tending to their instructional needs, when they're tending to students who need to be accelerated, or where their intervention needs to happen, then we are building a stronger student who then can achieve. And so it's a very complex piece. And as you can see tonight, everybody has a role in that process, and it has to come from different angles. And so achievement is really a very multifaceted process to get to that. I think in the next slide, Teresa, you might see some things that maybe more in line of what you're, you know, maybe considering as achievement or process of achievement. I'm hoping I'm capturing what you're trying to say, but
I understand what you're saying, but I don't see it articulated in these words. It's commendable. It's really fabulous, but I don't see it articulated in plain English. And I'm sorry, I didn't get the slide. I didn't see any notice about. I hadn't had a chance to review this. I didn't get. When I left work at 5, I didn't have this to review, but in most of the stuff I've seen, I still have not seen anything about the goal. You know, it's understood, but I don't see it articulated anywhere. And I realize this is the road to it, but it's not articulated. And well, let's see the next slide and see what you have to say.
I think what you're referring to is our stated objectives and district goals related to student achievement. And so what has been presented tonight were updates in particular areas on work that is part of the landscape of what we do. But I think what you're referring to more could be possibly in a strategic plan or listed out separately as goals for the district, which I agree is always a goal, right? High student achievement and always working in that direction. So, but for the next slide, kind of leading in to some of the places where I think it might be good to clarify is that we're always working on providing opportunities and providing mechanisms for students to achieve and to be their very best and to have opportunities that they may not would have otherwise. So this has been, you may have seen this in the task force and the last couple of presentations that we've done. This is sort of a revised graphic of, just to make it a little bit easier to read, because we were having some troubles with the other one, revised graphic of the different academies, one that's located at the Danbury Career Academy site, which is the former Cardis building, and then the academies that'll be at the Danbury High School main campus academy site. So the two academies that will be at the Cardis location will be these two here: Emerging Technologies in Entrepreneurship and Scientific Innovation in Medicine. The 4 academies that will be at Danbury High School site will be Information and Cybersecurity, Political and not political, Professional and Public Services, Art, Engineering and Design, and Communication and Design. And what I wanted to show you tonight, and I have Melissa Nadeau, who is our STEM administrator, who's been absolutely amazing in the process of helping to develop out the program of study sheets, so we could lay out a path, a rigorous path of course studies. So for students is to give you a snapshot of some of the work in the background. Granted, these are drafts, but to take one of these pathways and to give you kind of illuminate some of the work that will be occurring in there. So I'm going to click on, so for this medical technology and engineering pathway, it will be our example for tonight. And so as an example, this would be a program of study sheet. Again, we are in draft mode right now, that would articulate what the series of courses a student would take to meet their high school graduation requirements, but also to obtain some experience and more in-depth career-connected learning in the pathway that they chose. And so I'm going to let Melissa take this away a little bit to talk about these sheets. This is also hot linked into your presentation tonight, so you can take some time to take a look at that. But I would like Melissa to kind of walk you through and then talk a little bit about the medical technology program, and that's kind of in development. And Melissa, if it's easier for you for me to shrink this a little bit so you can see the whole thing in totality, I can do that. And to see if that's a little bit better.
You're good. You're good,
Good.
Tara.
Good. Okay.
I know these pretty well.
Yeah.
So for each pathway at the high school level, there will be a program guide that assists students in choosing the right course that will make their experience within the pathway probably the most comprehensive it can be. The course of study guide is developed, or sorry, not course of study guide, but the program guide is developed by examining what graduation requirements students need in order to graduate, but then also provides students with other courses that are aligned with the CTE course, the Career Connected Learning courses, to really just make the most formidable experience in their high school careers. When you look at the courses here that are highlighted for the medical technology pathway, we have the 9th grade exploration seminar, which is the compulsory course for all 9th grade students to go through so that they kind of get an overview and start doing some long range planning, which is part of one of the Connecticut state policies on students having a career, a study plan starting in 6th grade through graduation. From there, students would enter a 10th grade course. You'll see on the program guide that there's the yellow courses, which is that career connected learning pathway. But then there's also required electives, again, meeting the graduation requirement needs. But some of those required electives will also support the knowledge base that students are gaining through that career connected learning course. So I'm going to start by describing a little bit of that 10th grade course, which is called Engineering Essentials. This is like a survey course that kids would take in their 10th grade year to learn a little bit more about the basics of engineering design. That's what the first entire unit is all about. It talks about just how engineers go through a process of brainstorming ideas, researching ideas, developing prototypes for ideas. And that's, it is pretty high level stuff, but to kind of speak to the needs of the Portrait of a Graduate work, in order to develop this program of study, my team and I have been meeting with numerous industry partners who speak in the area of engineering, whether it be in med tech, whether it be in applied engineering, aerospace engineering. We've been holding meetings over the course of the last 3 years to understand what it is that we can put into a robust curriculum experience for students to not only get to academic achievement and content, but also to get to the skills needed to flourish in any type of environment they would be in. So an example in the essential engineering course would be going through the AQPQ process, which is a mouthful if you try to say it quickly. And that's a process that engineers have shared with us, is a collaborative way for engineers to share their ideas on what they would like to develop and get feedback from others on how to fully develop that idea to fruition. So embedded within these courses are experiences like that to facilitate innovative thought, to facilitate collaboration and communication, all within core content. So throughout their engineering essentials course, students will also do a cursory overview of mechanical engineering as well as electrical engineering. Those are two of the larger career paths that students could take in engineering in general. So after the engineering essentials course, students would enter into their 11th grade course. And this is a course that's called the Intersection of Innovation. So while I talk about this course, Kara, I'm actually going to have you pull up the video that's on the last slide of the presentation. There's no sound in the video because I'm going to talk over it while it plays. But this entire course for 11th grade is designed on the Neuromaker hand. So we were collaborating with a company outside of Boston called BrainCo. BrainCo has many facets in neuroscience and neuroengineering. And they developed within their lab something called the Neuromaker hand. And that's what the entirety of the 11th grade course is developed on. Kids will actually build that hand you're seeing there. And as part of the process, understand the mechanics of our own biology and how our tendons and our ligaments operate within our hands to make it move. And through that process, they will then actually use electrical engineering to connect the circuits in the hand that they're building. And that's something that you're seeing happening on the screen right now. As the kids progress into the process, they're going to be going through that engineering or design. They're going to have to troubleshoot when the connections don't work. They'll be going through their own design challenges as they're creating different prototypes for what they want their hands to complete and do. They will have to program that hand, right? So attaching the electrical circuits are not enough through programming on the computer. They have to tell the hand what to do. So they will actually make those fingers move. They will make it grasp objects. And eventually, they will start using artificial intelligence so that the sensors on the hands, as an object comes closer to it, the sensors will automatically know that, oh, a cup is coming towards my hand, I need to grasp it. Or a cell phone is coming towards my hand, I need to hold it a certain way. And that's the entirety of the components of their 11th grade experience, going through developing, building, programming, and using artificial intelligence to train that hand to do what it is it's asked to do. So if you can pull up the program guide one more time, Kara, I'll talk about how this sets students up for their 12th grade course. So what I just described was the basis of the intersection of innovation, right? So we're talking about medical technology pathway, and they'll get a core compulsory experience throughout 11th grade where they will go through the hands. The 12th grade is the application of innovative design. So in this course, in this 12th grade course, the students are going to go through and ideate on their own interests. Right? So they may have gone through their 11th grade course studying the hand. Well, now it's their own turn to find their own problem in society that they would like to solve as it applies to the medical field and engineer something to solve that problem. So You know, they're going to discover issues that are facing people in society or throughout the world and imagine what they can do in order to solve those larger life problems. The goal for that 12th grade course of the application of innovative design is to find partnerships within industry that can set them up to meet with engineers on a regular basis so that they can help understand what type of technologies are out there that can support whatever that is that they're trying to solve. And I'll give an example that is not from our district, but was from a larger design competition, where a student in Connecticut actually developed bandages that turn a different color when a wound gets infected, so that people knew that, okay, this bandage turned this color, they need to seek medical attention. And that's being used actually widely in some third world countries right now. A student developed that. So the goal of that 12th grade course is to have them ideate, to have them develop prototypes, and refine and present whatever it is they're developing to panels of engineers, and also enter some larger contests. You may have seen in that video for the NeuroMaker, they actually sponsor a larger contest designed on medical engineering, which is something we hope students get involved in. There's a company in Tarrytown, New York that we've been working with that has been an advisor to us called Regeneron. Regeneron also sponsors large competitions, not only in this region, but nationally. And they've been instrumental in us understanding what that competitive process looks like for students. So, I mean, that's pretty much the pathway in general and some of the curriculum work we've done throughout that yellow block that you see up there. But it doesn't hurt to take notice of the courses that we're asking students to take along the way. You know, in that 10th grade course, also highlighted in yellow, we have 2 courses that would really support the entire pathway, being medical terminology and introduction to programming, right? Describing that they would be programming a hand, an introduction into programming would be helpful. And that's liaisoning computer science into this coursework, into this path of study. And then, you know, you should not fail to notice that it's highly recommended that in the senior year, in science at least, you know, you have kids to strive for taking physics, AP Bio, AP Chemistry. But, you know, I'll talk about physics in particular there. There's many schools in the state of Connecticut. So the other thing we've done with these program guides, not only working with industry to inform the curriculum design, but we've also been working by understanding what the post-secondary schools are requiring of students, not only for entrance, but also to be successful in their programs. So this MedTech pathway, which is a very big program at the University of Connecticut. That physics course is one course that they would advise students have prior to entering into their programs, right? So what you see before you is a work of not only being informed by industry and our own graduation requirements, but also in connection with discussing this with the post-secondary institutions and what their requirements are. That's all I have, Kara. Unless there's something else you'd like me to.
No, thank you very much. And just to note too, that these sheets, you know, if you look down, some of the other work that will be happening and very much dependent with the counselors as well in the future, this document is giving me some trouble here. Is the making the connections for the students. And you notice at the top, though, there are different levels of challenge within the academies in the pathway. So a student could take a college prep level course, an honors course, and in many cases, because we offer so many advanced placement courses, you can choose to take the advanced placement version. And so one of the, you know, in a conversation that I had with someone recently, you know, there was a question, you know, a parent had a question about, you know, is this going to be, you know, like a technical high school, and there's not going to be that same level of challenge anymore at Danbury High School. And I would argue to say that we've just upped the challenge and the rigor quite a bit in here, but are also offering our regular courses in terms of college prep. So a student who wants to take this physics course can take it at the college prep level, honors level, or the advanced placement level. And so, you know, the ability to attain their high school requirements but also challenge themselves appropriate at different levels, I think is very important, in addition to having early college credit opportunities will be phenomenal. And so a lot of the companies too that we've started to engage in also offer additional levels of expertise even outside of any of the courses that we have as we work to partner with them. But I did just want to highlight that some of the work that's happening now is to take these alignments so that when kids are looking at these courses of study sheets and when parents are taking a look, that we start to outline the different work-based learning experiences and opportunities that could be available. What are the industry certifications that a student might be able to pursue as a result of engaging in some of these courses that they'll have the content knowledge to do well on. Identifying any dual enrollment courses that we have. So what UConn courses can be substituted for any of the courses here? What courses and articulations with WestConn would we put in here where kids can get college credit? And then understanding, what are the different job fields out there? So pre-med, pre-vet, pre-dental, PharmD, these are the types of majors you might be pursuing when you get to the college level. So really providing a lot of information for students and parents to make good decision-making, and then outlining the high wage, high skill, high demand careers below that align to this pathway. And some of the work too, when students come in grade 9, and I'll bug out of here in a second. When students come in grade 9 and they have this grade 9 exploration course and experience, part of that course is to review all of these with students so that they have a deep understanding about the opportunities that lie in front of them and the courses that they would have to engage in and options that they have within. Additionally, it's important to outline, the different levels of career paths that they can pursue. And so we really, between the counseling and the course, really making sure that kids have a front-loaded experience with this to make a good decision for themselves. Again, they're not picking a college major here, but they're engaging in some focused electives that would help produce something that they would not otherwise get if they had not been in a wall-to-wall academy. So we're very excited about a lot of the work that's been happening. Melissa and her team have been reaching out. Melissa's in charge of the STEM and the CTE. So there's quite a bit of pathways in here that fall under her area. So she really does work 24/7, to help develop these. And we've got a lot more work to come. And so Melissa, thank you tonight for your presentation. I appreciate the work that you guys are doing in the background. Any questions here?
Yes, hi. I'm wondering, so you were saying that you don't have to take a course or, get a certain grade point average to, let's say, go into this advanced physics course. So let's say I take a math and I am not doing well, just barely getting by, and I want to take the physics class. Maybe my best friend's in there. Maybe I've always liked it, but it requires a lot of math. I would be able to just sign up for that course without really, having anyone tell me that I'm going to really, I would be able to take that course whether or not I was going to be passing it or not, based on my past history. Mm-hmm. Or if I'm in a special ed program, like my son was in one, an IEP, and including equity and all these fulfilling and help structuring life and all that would not really allow him the time that he needed just to learn how to write a paragraph or do regular math problem. So how do you take the fact that we are already short on learning and teaching and put children in different classrooms where the speed of the course being taught is not at their level? Or perhaps they're advanced, like my son was kind of fell in between. He was almost like a substitute teacher or a teacher's aide because he was advanced, but in a regular class, he struggled. So in between that world, where does that child fall in? Do they get to just go into an advanced class because they choose to? Or, do they focus on going into a class that really is slower and helping you learn the foundation instead of so much of like the, world experience, like really learn it?
Yeah. So it's a great question, Michelle, and one that we've had before. So you're not alone in being concerned about that. But that is exactly where the counseling piece comes in. And that is where when a counselor builds a relationship with a student and has followed them through their experience, and it comes time for those planning sessions around course selection, there's an honest conversation about what an appropriate level based on past performance, based on, let's talk about your interests, let's talk about, so you could have a student who could be, let's say, potentially maybe not a super performer in mathematics, let's just say, right? But they are a gifted writer. We would say, maybe you want to challenge yourself in this area. I think you would do well. Or maybe this course might be a better foundational course for you to take, given where you are right now. But if you want to challenge yourself, here's the next level. But I would warn you a little bit about this course over here. You might be overwhelmed in this. We also give students an opportunity, there's like a 2-week drop period as well. So a student, we've had students who kind of, I think I want to try the AP. I think I can do it. I really am passionate about that subject area. And they can get in there, and some of them soar, or they get in 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, they're like, you know what, this is way more work than I really thought it was going to be. So I'd like to drop the course and hop into a college prep or an honors course. And we allow that. So the first 2 weeks of the school year, we do allow some changes, but the better the counseling going in, the more appropriate that those open enrollment choices are. And so open enrollment doesn't necessarily mean free for all. It just means that we do not have barriers for students who want to challenge themselves in some areas. So again, it really comes down to a counseling piece. And helping that student make some good choices for themselves. That's still an appropriate level of rigor and challenge, but maybe not to the point of overwhelming.
So if you're going to be getting counseling right now, how many hours of counseling would you say that you would get before you were to apply for courses in freshman year and second, your sophomore year? How many hours are you looking to increase that program? Because, how many times do they meet with the counselor then now versus what you're looking to implement?
So right now we have 21 advanced placement courses now. We have a gazillion honors and college prep courses now. So really the counseling piece really isn't any different. We've had an open enrollment system in place. So these would just be different courses. And so students may have questions more so in this model about courses that they haven't heard of before. So there might be some more, some additional, but that's part of what the course is in 9th grade, is to go over what all these different courses are and the different career trajectories. But really it's about making the most of the times. Students have scheduled opportunities with their counselors, and at times push in to talk about those things periodically. But we really have had this system in place for a while. Does that mean every student actually makes the best decision for themselves all the time? Nope. But we do have an add drop period that has been well utilized in those scenarios, so that we can make sure that students are performing and thriving in the classes, but with challenge.
So the counselors that you were talking about, trying to implement them into the regular course day, kind of that, I thought that's what you were talking about before. How many more hours? Is there a goal to try to, immerse them into your everyday kind of class situation? You know what I'm saying? Because right now it's like slim pickings, right? For counselors and all this, implementing this, as well as the curriculum at different speeds and different languages. It just looks like we're taking on a lot of goals in these courses. And, I think it's more like what Teresa's saying is, what about the academic? Like, is that still the goal, or is it to try to really get this whole person kind of developed in the classroom instead of really pushing that academic? I think that's the concern for me. Like, how do you keep all that going in one class?
Well, if I could just answer about the counselor push-in. Right now, the way that many of our counselors are doing it is that they are, for example, when you're enrolling for your 9th grade year, counselors are going into an 8th grade classroom. They're talking to students about graduation requirements. It's the first time they're hearing that. Credits, what you have to obtain to achieve a high school diploma. And so building off of the model like that is pushing our school counselors in to have conversations with groups of students. So for example, all students are taking English. So pushing into those classes to have conversations, whole group, so students can know what to expect come the course registration process. And then looking to do monthly for each grade level in different areas, not to detract away from the academics, but to support and do it collaboratively with the academic instructor so that students are aware of the information that they need come time for course registration, that they understand the graduation requirements, and we're able to support with some of those other softer skills, not to detract from academic excellence, but to further support and build towards the whole student, so that students can gain additional relationships with their school counselors that are key, and to continue on their academic success. They need to see the school counselors as being an integral part of their school experience. And one way to achieve that is to infuse them more into the classroom experience. Certainly then there's going to be students that are going to need to have individual conversations with their school counselor. So one of the things the school counselors currently do is to make sure when students are registering for classes and they put in their request and elective areas of interest, that I may then follow up with Kara and say, I know you really like art, but you've already met that art requirement. And so you have not taken something in technology or another area. And so let's talk about that. What would be good courses for you to explore and build upon your experiences and make sure that she's continuing to develop herself as a well-rounded individual.
I'm just concerned with the fact that I think it was some time ago we had discussed like second language learners, combining those classes with the regular first language, that are maybe not learning English as the second language. So does that speed up the teaching process, slow it down? Because I'm bilingual and I've struggled with reading and writing, it was because I had learned Spanish. I was speaking Spanish in kindergarten. And everyone else is speaking English. So it is something, but I always did have to kind of keep up, maintain, but nobody kind of slowed that class down for me, So how does that work for somebody who's really trying to push forward and maybe excels at that part of the course? Do you kind of set them apart and give them additional work? Is there, how do you do that if basically we're putting everybody in same level, I'm assuming, courses?
Kara, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, we have a very much a growing second language learner population. We are a district who now has a very large size population of second language learners. And so we don't separate or segregate second language learners from other learners in the district. And like other students, we talk about classes that would be most appropriate for them to take. And our teachers, as we continue to grow in our population and size, our teaching strategies have to change to make things more accessible to a wider variety of students. And is that challenging? Yes, it is. But it's no different than most of our other urban districts and many districts around the state that are also growing and experiencing the same. But I will say that in many cases, our second language learners bring another level of richness to the class that doesn't, especially in our humanities courses and all of our courses, they perform quite well in many areas. And I think that, I want to be careful that, we don't want to create a situation where we're saying, if we have second language learners in the classroom, we're slowing down the achievement or the academics of others. And that would be the reason, that would slow things down. And when we opened up our advanced placement courses, Michelle, that was a place where there was a lot of speculation on is that what's going to happen? We're going to slow these classes down, and the teacher's going to have to differentiate in a way. And while that is true, there wasn't an enormous dip in the overall achievement of students in those classes. The students who would get a 4 and a 5 still got a 4 and a 5 on those assessments. But we just happened to offer and widen that opportunity to other students, and students benefited from that experience. And I think it's really important that over time, we continue to grow in our ability to reach all different types of learners. And certainly we're getting more and more experience with second language learners every year. And we're getting better at it. And so, we are a district who serves second language learners. This is our community. And, so our program is for all, but we do guide students into appropriate leveled courses. That's something that we do for everybody. So that's part of the counseling piece. Kelly mentioned sort of the push-in model as well. That's something that, if we're going to have a meeting with 30 kids they're all asking the same question. Those are the types of, let me push into Mrs. Smith's English class. I'm going to explain this to all the groups that come through today. So we also do a lot of that as well. But yes, our courses, we do have open enrollment, but we do also couple that with counseling and guidance to help students make informed decisions.
But right now, currently, we do have second language learning classes and like regular, English learning, students, different classes, but we are merging them. So I know we understand that we're saying we want to teach and we teach everyone, but currently we're doing it a different way, right? Like,
so
is that correct, or am I misunderstanding that?
No. So what we have now, so the Academy does not change the fact that our second language learners are integrated throughout all of our courses. That's happening now. And so we have ESL classes. That's where we focus on language acquisition. So we're going to develop your ability to master, English language, versus you are attending and participating in other courses where the sole focus of that course is not mastering English language, and we're not focused on your English language development, although we work to support all students and we're getting better at that as well. So that doesn't change in this model. The only thing that changes here are some of the opportunities that we're offering in terms of the different types of courses that will be available in the academies. But right now, all of our ESL students are integrated everywhere in all of our classes. You'd be hard pressed to pull up any course and not find our ESL students in the course.
Right. I would assume that, but I remember it being discussed that we were going to be merging different. So maybe I misunderstood what, we had talked about. I think it was a couple of months ago, actually, that was brought up.
Could be.
So I think maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah. No, they're in all of our classes, all classes now at every level. They're in advanced placement. They're in college prep. They have their ESL courses that they take specifically for language development. We've got bilingual courses. Some of our courses are taught in Spanish. Yep.
No. Okay. So the ESL programs that they take, is that considered like an elective? Is that during the school day that, they're not maybe in the, a different English course? And that, I guess so my son wasn't in that. I'm not really sure about how that is handled.
Sure. So a newcomer, someone who's a new arrival, who has just arrived here, would spend more time with an ESL teacher than in all of the core classes. So until that student acquires at least sort of a basic level of proficiency, it wouldn't be fair to drop them into 5 courses. So we kind of grow that out, and a student would spend double blocks of time in a newcomer class. As they gain more proficiency, they end up they'll take more classes out in the general population, if you will, and continue to take on more and more over time as their language proficiency develops.
Okay. So that's what I wanted to make sure, because I know that if you go into a class for 2 weeks, you may not be hitting that essay until 4 weeks, or, you know what I mean? And really not realize the depth of that course until you're in it. So between the counseling, I just want to make sure that was still, if we're going to be implementing that more so in the class, how do you, manage all that time as well as this ESL if you're obviously taking time out to focus on that learning as well as, mainstreaming. That's what I wanted to know. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Welcome. Yes, Teresa.
I noticed the main campus academy is now called Art, Engineering, and Design. Before it was Art and Theater. I'd like to make a recommendation. The art part be expanded to visual and performing arts. That would encompass more of the theater program and your musical program, as long as the regular art courses. I think art is very limiting. And thinking of WestConn, if they're going to go on to that great at WestConn, that new school, they call it visual and performing arts. Just a suggestion.
No, I appreciate that, Teresa. Just, I'm not sure that we had theater in the.
I think in one of some strategic plan or something showed the academy as art and theater, and I was thinking that just didn't encompass music for me.
Yeah, so the arts, music, and theater are available for all. So so all of the academies that you see here and the pathways within were developed using the national research on the career clusters, regional career clusters, and then local career clusters. So Connecticut Connecticut has their own clusters. I did present that just recently at the task force. There's a slide deck. I could probably share that out if anybody's interested. But it really discusses the different areas where there's high wage, high demand, potential for high wage. And so when putting these together in Academy Model, you design these specifically to meet not just student interest, but also that there's a potential for employment at the end of that. So that's one piece. The second piece is that the theater, that the arts and music are electives made available to all students in all of the academies. And so those are part of the graduation requirements for students to select those. So because we feel that those are important for everybody to have an experience and exposure to. So there isn't one academy that for students who want to, engage in the theater. We have theater for everybody, any student who wants to take theater.
Kara, I have a question.
Sure.
Going back to the course selection for the academies, is there any opportunity for overlap in like the application of innovative design to serve as part of the capstone project, or anything like the medical courses? Can that fulfill a health requirement?
Yes, we did have that conversation. Melissa, do you want to speak to that a little bit? So we did talk about, while she's unmuting, and I probably answered the same question, but we did talk about that senior elective as being the capstone. So whatever it is that you're choosing in the advanced elective, that also becomes the meat and potatoes, if you will, to do your capstone project. So absolutely, yes. And we did talk about, and we still have to work through those components, that there are certain classes here that would serve as a potential for, health. There are some other, even in like the human performance pathway, there could be potential for physical activity that could count towards a PE credit as kids work through, systems of the body and testing limits and all of that stuff. So we have a lot of those types of things to work towards, but the more opportunity that we can to create flexibility for students and options, that is always the goal. So it's a great question, and one that as we kind of finalize what these pathways look like, once we kind of nail those pieces down, then you say, oh, okay, this can serve as credit for that. So absolutely.
That's great. It's hard, and it's hard enough to work through the 25 the credit requirement. So yeah, great. Yes. Thank you.
I think the only thing I would add to that is, we're constantly advocating at the state level as well. We will have conversations in the office and talk about, well, what if this can be this? And And a lot of it is contacting our respective state departments, asking questions, planting some seeds, because some of it may end up being some policy moves that we'll have to advocate for at an eventual, point in time. I know that, the health department and the phys ed department at the state are very stringent in their rules. So we're constantly planting some seeds to go back at other points in time to advocate really what's best for our students in our community and our district, right? And with living within the state policy, but making it what's right for us. And those are conversations we're constantly having.
Good to know. Any other questions? I think we lost Lauren. She was having some technical difficulties. Any other questions from board members? Any other board members on? Gladys or Kate, I think.
Thank you. I don't have any questions, but I just want to, thank you for the detail that you guys dove into here and really giving us a strong sense of, where you're moving forward with this project. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I would like to say thank you again. It's very informative information for me as a board member, and to know that you are and always will continue to put excellent first for all our students. And thank you for the information.
Thank you, Gladys. Was that it on the agenda? Did we touch upon everything? And my last question was this presentation shared with committee members, and could it be shared with the whole board?
Yes to the first part and yes to the second part. So
Okay.
it's in there, it's in your drive. So if you didn't see come through through email, I did put let's see who's on here. I could show you right now when I click the share button. Joe Da Silva, Kelly, Kevin. Yeah, so I can add anybody who's not in here. Laura, Lauren, Louisa, Mary Jo. Yeah, I'll add it, the other board members in there, but everyone is shared on it. Yes.
Okay, great.
Mostly.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is there anything else from committee?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Are we there? Yeah.
Motion to
Teresa, moved by Teresa, seconded by Michelle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.